My name is Scott. I'm one of the pastors here. I've actually been here with the gathering since the beginning when we launched in 2017, something like that. I think did we officially do our first service in 2017, or is that when we started planning? I'm asking people who don't know. It's okay. I think my wife and I and George are probably, and maybe Nan. You would know. It was 17, right? 2017 was the first. There you go, August 2017. Somebody has it in their planner. Are you just gifted like that, or is it in your? Wow, you're gifted. You're one of the. You're like Rain Man. That's pretty amazing. Pray for me. I just got back from Thailand, and today I am taking a group of junior hires, 13 junior hires, for a week-long summer camp, too. So it's back-to-back craziness. We are in the Make Your Mark series. We've been going through Mark and the marks of Jesus and the marks of a whole bunch of different stuff. We're going to get into all of those. First of all, we just got back, about 30 of us got back from Thailand. We went on a missions trip, and it was pretty extraordinary. We went out to serve the Alliance missionaries. There's a whole bunch of missionaries out there. I think there's about 30 plus, a little under 40 missionaries that showed up with their kids. Some of them drove. I know, the kids were there. They were allowed. It's totally cool. Some of them drove more than 12 hours just to get there. And we did a retreat for them as a missionary on the field. A lot of them are isolated in their different things. They don't get a lot of time together. They go hard and fast. Thailand is a very difficult place to do ministry in because it's similar to Islam, that if you convert, it's basically a big up yours to your entire family and everybody you know, and so they reject you. And so it's really difficult for Thailand, because they're mainly Buddhist, to become Christian. So it's a long-term, slow-moving, and these people are exhausted. They feel like they're not having much success. And so they were able to come together, have a retreat, be refreshed, be in God's presence. Their kids were there. We did VBS for the kids. One of my favorite parts was how all of us, the team and the kids, really bonded. Like, my daughter Caitlin met a girl named Jordan who was there. Her parents were fresh in Thailand, and the Alliance, that's the Christian and Missionary Alliance. If you don't know, that's our denomination. The Alliance has this crazy, once you go on the field, you study language for 2 years, 6 hours a day. That's what these people were doing. They're like, my head hurts afterwards. But they had this little girl named Jordan, and my daughter and Jordan now call and FaceTime each other and message each other almost every single day. It was beautiful. And that's the kind of connections that our kids made and that we made with the missionaries. It was absolutely fantastic. The missionaries said it was one of their best times that they've ever had, and some of them had been out there for 30 plus years. Yes. And so right now what I want to do is everybody that went on the trip, stand up really quick. Even if you're outside, stand up. There's people in the booth that are standing up. And the people that went on the trip, you'll either see they'll be wearing their Thailand shirts, like the Sotos here, or some kind of Thai something. Not Thai dye, but like Thai. Go ahead, sit back down, take a look and observe those people, because this is what I want you to do today at lunch is ask them what their favorite story of Thailand was. So what are you supposed to ask them? Que bueno. Now, the reason why we did this trip is because it's more than just a one-time missions trip. These missionaries in Thailand, it's kind of crazy. The Alliance has been in Thailand for 100 years. And the Thai missionaries have no district in the United States that has adopted them. right? They are just kind of out there on their own. A lot of mission fields have like a district. We're going to lead the charge in this mission field. Thailand has none. So what we've decided is that as a church, we are going to adopt the Thai mission field and get the our district, the South Pacific District, on board too. And what was amazing is that someone from the district came, and we have decided after this trip to allow and offer, we'll be paying for every single pastor in the South Pacific District to go on the mission trip to Thailand. So South Pacific is half of California, all of New Mexico or Arizona, all of Arizona, and part of Nevada, right? So there's literally hundreds of pastors, and we're going to try and get the entire South Pacific District to have a heart for Thailand. Because the reality is that it broke my heart when I heard this. Before we showed up, there were many missionaries that said they felt forgotten, right? Because they're just out there on their own. And so it was beautiful to show up and not only say, we love you, but we are going to adopt you, and you're not forgotten, and your work is important. And it was beautiful. So today we're going into Make Your Mark, and we're talking about the 7 marks of a Jesus-centered life. We went over several of them already. George did one, Aaron did one, Tim did one, and now I'm doing one on faith. So one of the reasons, by the way, George isn't here. I don't know if you've noticed that or not. I'm here because George actually hurt his back really bad. It seems like a ruptured disc. He's doing an MRI to find it. He's in a level like 10 pain. It's crazy hurting. Pray for him. Pray for a quick recovery. I kind of understand that kind of pain because 10 years ago, something similar happened to me. I hope and pray that George's pain is not as extensive or as long as mine was. And so pray for a quick recovery. But for me, I had a ruptured disc, and it was almost impossible to stand from a seating position to stand up. I would literally cry. Tears would come in my eyes. I was on morphine for 8 months, right? And that was just a daily dose of morphine, and then they gave me like another thing just in case the pain gets really, really bad. And for the longest time, I was like, God, are you going to heal me? I had hundreds of people praying for me all the time, this, that, and the other thing. And then it got to the point where people would ask me to pray, and I'd be like, just make it quick. Because in my heart, I'd just given up. There's something there, if you've ever dealt with like chronic pain, it's not just pain, it like psychologically breaks you down. It is, I wish it on nobody. And eventually I got to the point where I was just like, God's not going to heal me. I just gave up. This is my new normal, right? It's not that I stopped believing in God. I just stopped believing that God would actually move on my behalf in this part of my life, right? And if you're anything like me, you've probably experienced similar feelings, right? Maybe it's pain. Maybe it's sickness, right? It could be the relationship that you're in that always ends in the same fight over and over. Like the relationship isn't going anywhere and you're kind of stuck with this person. Maybe it's been the anxiety that you've been suffering with, or the depression you've been suffering with for years and years. A habit or a sin that feels like it's so deeply rooted in your life, there's no possibility for change. Right? We've all been there. Right? And sometimes we say we still have faith, but if we're honest, we could just be hanging on by a thread. Just barely surviving. Right? And if that's you today, I just want to encourage you, this message is for you. Maybe you just need to believe again. So we're going to be in Mark chapter 9. We're going to be talking about faith. So go ahead and turn in your phones to Mark. Open up your phones. Nobody brings Bibles except for you. Good job. Mark chapter 9, verse 14. And if you are familiar with the story at all, there are several things that are just really weird about this story. So as we read together, what I want you to do, you're going to be quizzed later, is I want you to try to find as many weird or odd things that stick out to you as possible, because there's a ton of them in the story. Okay, you ready? So when they return to the other disciples, this happens right after Jesus' transfiguration with his core four, right? He becomes like white and glowy and all that stuff. Moses and Elijah show up, and it was amazing. And then he comes down from the mountain, and they saw a large crowd surrounding them. Return to the other disciples, they saw a large crowd surrounding them. And some of the teachers of religious law were arguing with them. And when the crowd saw Jesus, they were overwhelmed with awe, and they ran to greet him. "What is all this arguing about?" Jesus asked. So one of the men in the crowd spoke up and said, "Teacher, I brought my son to you so you could heal him. He is possessed by an evil spirit that won't let him talk. And whenever the spirit seizes him, it throws him violently on the ground. Then he foams at the mouth and grinds his teeth and becomes rigid. So I asked your disciples to cast out the evil spirit, but they couldn't." So Jesus says to him, "You faithless people, how long must I be with you? How long must I put up with you? Bring the boy to me." So they brought the boy. But when the evil spirit saw Jesus, it threw the child into a violent convulsion, and he fell to the ground, writhing and foaming at the mouth. "How long has this been happening?" Jesus asked the boy's father. And he replied, "Since he was a little boy. The spirit often throws him into the fire or into water, trying to kill him. Have mercy on us and help us if you can." "What do you mean, if I can?" Jesus asked. "Anything is possible if a person believes." And the father instantly cried out, "I do believe, but help me overcome my unbelief." And when Jesus saw that the crowd of onlookers was growing, he rebuked the evil spirit. "Listen, you spirit that makes this boy unable to hear and speak," he said. "I command you to come out of this child." That's exactly what the kid was doing. "I command you to come out of this child and never enter him again." Then the spirit screamed, and he threw the boy into another violent convulsion and left him. And the boy appeared to be dead. And a murmur ran through the crowd as people said, "He's dead." But Jesus took him by the hand and helped him to his feet, and he stood up. And afterward, when Jesus was alone in the house with his disciples, they asked him, "Why couldn't we cast out that evil spirit?" And Jesus replied, "This is the kind that can only be cast out by prayer." So there was a lot of really weird things in there. Very unusual. There's like, have you ever seen those like, one of these things is not like the other? If you compare almost all the other interactions Jesus has with sick and demon-possessed people, this is like crazy different. So, what did you guys find odd about the story? I want you to turn to the person next to you, and you're going to tell them the things that you're like, that was kind of weird. Ready, set, go. All right, all right. What's some of the things that you guys, this section, what's some of the things that stood out to you? Just shout it out. What? There's a child that's demon-possessed. Yes. Anything? This section, one thing you can't repeat. Can't repeat, you can't repeat. It's going to be the toughest for you. All right. One thing that stood out that's like kind of weird. Okay, yeah, there's lots of people gathering around, and if they don't believe that he can do it. What about you guys? Foaming at the mouth, okay. What about you guys? I didn't point over there yet. You guys first. Oh, yeah, he just fully rebukes everybody. It's kind of odd. You're like, hey, what's happening here? I hate you all. What did you guys say? Yeah. Yeah, he's like, what's wrong with the kid? He starts interviewing the dad. What did you say? Falling over? Yeah, the kid's falling over. So this is an odd story. It's not a typical healing story. And at the heart of the passage, it's loaded with surprising moments that force us to wrestle with what real faith looks like. And the first thing, these are some of the things that should just make you go, what? Huh? It's the powerless disciples. This is odd. These guys have gone out and cast out demons multiple times. So much so that the last time I taught, people were seeking out the disciples instead of Jesus for healing and casting out demons. This is not their first time, and all of a sudden, like they lost their mojo. Like it's not working. And that's just weird. You're like, now you can't do it. That's strange. The next one that you saw was Jesus rebukes everyone. He shows up and he just lays the smack down on them. He hears that the demon can't be cast out and he responds, "O unbelieving generation, how long shall I stay with you? How long do I have to put up with you?" He's not just addressing the disciples, he's addressing everyone. He's addressing the Father. He's addressing the Pharisees. He's addressing the crowd. Jesus shows up. He hears that they can't cast out the demon. He's like, I am so tired of putting up with you people. That's his response. Isn't that crazy? They're like, hey, Jesus, somebody needs healing. And he's like, oh my gosh, how long do I have to do this with you people? When are you guys going to learn? It's so strange. And then another thing that's really weird is he seems oddly unmoved. A child is writhing, convulsing in pain, foaming at the mouth, desperate need of healing, and Jesus starts to have a side conversation. So, like he's a doctor. He's like, so, tell me what these symptoms are. And the guy's like, these are the symptoms. And how long has he had these symptoms for? It's bizarre that he seems like to be unconcerned that the child is having an attack. And what's even crazier, if you go back and look, do you guys remember the reason that he cast out the demon? Because a crowd was gathering. The reason for him to be like, okay, I'm done talking, isn't because he got a good answer. He's like, this is getting to be too big of a thing. Let's just end it now. So weird. If the crowd didn't gather, Jesus would have probably kept talking to the dad for a little bit more, just letting the kids suffer. Another thing is the crowd thinks the boy is dead. The crowd thinks Jesus killed the kid. When Jesus finally acts, the boy appears dead, and the people are like, oh, snap, Jesus just killed that kid. I hope he has good malpractice insurance. People are like, oh, Jesus, what'd you just do? I'm not going to ask Jesus for prayer anymore. It's so bizarre. People think Jesus actually made it worse. And then the last one is when the disciples are like, okay, just tell us, what did we do wrong? We were sitting there trying to figure it out. The Pharisees were like, you guys are idiots. We tried everything, and nothing seemed to work. And Jesus' response is, this kind only comes out by prayer. But here's the thing. Jesus didn't pray. Did you notice that? He's like, this kind only comes out by prayer. Is he just like, I'm here to show you what it looks like to be connected with God, and you guys have to pray, but I don't, because I've got the Jesus card. Like, why would he set a standard that he himself doesn't have to follow? Isn't that bizarre? What is going on with all of this? Now, all these things are pointing to something deeper, but we won't know what that deeper is until we look at their responses. Everybody has a different response, so let's get into the reactions to people. You ready? So every single person in this situation is facing an impossible situation, a situation that's beyond their ability to fix, to solve, right? And the key issue is looking at how everybody responds to the situation in relation to Jesus, okay? So the first people, and before we get into this is what I want you to ask you. Evaluate your own responses in light of their responses as well. Because I know this room, as I talked about struggles and difficulties that seem insurmountable, and you're like, man, I don't know if this is ever going to work. It's probably half of this room. Right? And so as you are going through something, or if you've recently been through something, evaluate your responses based off of, in light of their responses. We good? First people is the disciples. The disciples, they try to cast out the demon, but they can't. And the Pharisees begin to argue with them. Jesus just walks up and just straight up rebukes them. Right? And afterwards, they're like, how come we can't do it? You see in the disciples that they're frustrated, they're confused by their own failure. They're like, I don't understand what's wrong. This is frustrating. I have these stupid Pharisees yelling at me. And their response, you can see, their response falters when there's no immediate success. When things don't go the way they think it should or the way it used to go, all of a sudden they're like, the wheels come off their car. They don't know exactly what to do. And their failure exposes their faith has become more dependent on past success than dependence on Jesus. That this used to work. Why isn't this working anymore? And Jesus' later comment that this kind only comes out by prayer suggests that they were not depending on God, but their own ability in that situation. That it's not that Jesus, like, I don't have to pray. Jesus has a lifestyle of prayer and dependence on God, and his disciples missed that. They saw a demon-possessed guy, and they're like, I got this. I know what to do. I can figure this one out. And we do the same thing when we try to fix our problems, our spiritual problems, with practical strategies that worked in the past. Right? We're like, okay, I can figure this out. I know how, I've been here before. I can do this again. Give me enough time, I will make this work. And instead of depending on Jesus, we depend on our own abilities. Anyone relate to that one? Next one is the Pharisees. The Pharisees' response is to argue about God's lack of movement. Right? They see that God's not working in the situation, so they begin to point fingers. They begin to rationalize. They don't respond in humility or prayer. They start offering condemning explanations why it's not happening. It's that, well, you don't have enough faith. Or when we do it ourselves, it's, I don't have enough faith for it. That's why God's not working. And we start rationalizing all the reasons why God's not working. Well, God might be mad at me. There's that one sin in my life that I can't get over with, so he must not be moving now because of this other thing that's going on in my life. Or here's another one we tell ourselves. I don't deserve it. The reason why God's not moving is because I don't deserve it right now. And the Pharisees are the example of a lack of faith that justifies itself through rationalization. They don't actually believe that God can do this. And so they want to point to, when God doesn't do it, they point to all the reasons why it's not happening. Because they want to understand with their head instead of depend on Jesus with their heart. And we do the same thing when we explain away why God isn't moving in our life. And we blame ourselves. And sometimes we blame other people. And we rationalize. We don't actually believe. And so we just make up all these reasons and tell ourselves why it's not happening. Anybody done that before? You can say yes, it's okay. And the crowd. You see the crowd. The crowd, they're curious at first, and then they're absolutely shocked when the boy collapses, and then they're relieved at the end. The crowd has what I call spectator faith. They have spectator faith. The crowd reflects a shallow, reactive faith that is swayed by emotion and circumstances. They interpret everything based on what they see. What's going on? What are my circumstances telling me? Not who Jesus is, but what they are perceiving to happen around them. And we do the same thing when we trust God when things look good, but question Him the moment it doesn't look like it's working out. Right? I had a friend that did this once. He was like, God's telling me to buy a house. So I was like, cool. That's awesome. And then like a few months later, he's like, I'm in over my head. I think God's telling me to sell the house. I was like, you might have a problem on hearing God. Right? And it's just like this. I want this thing. Like, things should be easy. That's the crowd's thing. That if I'm doing something, God should be behind it instantly. And if He's not, then I don't have faith for that anymore. God's trying to lead me someplace else. Anybody relate to that one? You don't have to show your hands. It's okay. And then you got the boy. This boy is possessed. He's powerless. He nearly dies when he's free. And he is the picture of hopelessness without Jesus. Right? His response to Jesus is it nearly kills him. It takes everything out of him. People think like, oh my gosh, what happened to that poor kid? Someone check his pulse. And here's the truth. Sometimes when God is moving in your life, it can feel like he's killing you. It can feel like it's crushing you. Like, whatever you're doing, God, please stop because this is worse than what was before. You ever been there? Where you're like, you know what, God, I'd rather struggle with my issue than have to walk through this thing. I prefer the comfort and like what I know than this literal hell that you're making me walk through in order to become free, in order to become healed, in order to be made whole. Anybody? Anybody feel that one ever? I have. And then Jesus, you see Jesus, he's interesting. He seems unconcerned about the boy. And Jesus intentionally delays healing the boy for the father's benefit. And it exposes the depth of the father's doubt. But it also creates space and an open door for authentic vulnerability for the father to engage. And faith often grows in that tension between what we expect and what God does. And you're like, no. What are you doing? God's allowing this. I didn't ask for this. I asked for something else, Jesus. And in that tension, Jesus becomes the catalyst for faith in our lives. I mean, think about it if you're the father. This is Jesus. He's tried everything. He's even tried the disciples. He actually went looking for Jesus, and Jesus wasn't there. And his son convulses again. And instead of helping, Jesus was like, hey, let's sit down and have a chat. I mean, imagine you're like, why are you talking? Just heal him. Just do something. And it's in that lack of movement that creates the door for faith to arise in the Father. And some of us are there. You're like, Jesus, what are you doing? What are you waiting for? Anybody there today? And then you got the Father. The Father is desperate and honest. He's exhausted. He's tried everything. He's like, this is my last hope. And he even questions if Jesus can be helpful. He says, if you can do anything. I'm not sure. Even Jesus can do something. I've literally tried everything. Nothing's worked. I'm going to give it a shot. It's like a roulette table. I got a 50-50 shot with Jesus. Hopefully it works well for me. Hopefully it lands on black, not on red, right? And his response is real faith that admits weakness. And instead of faking confidence, he just confesses, help my unbelief. He's like, I'm not there, Jesus. I would like to be there, but I'm not. Could you please help me out? Right? And a lot of people, when they see this guy, they're like, this is such a great statement of faith. It is not a statement of faith. If you pair it with what he said before, if you can do anything, this is not a statement of faith. This is a statement of uncertainty. Jesus, I'm not sure. I want to believe, but I'm not there yet. That's what the statement is. I would really like to believe, Jesus. Please show me that I can believe. He's like, I've given up hope. Please help me believe that this is even possible. And that's where Jesus meets him. And his weakness becomes the doorway to genuine faith. A faith that isn't about certainty, it's just about surrender. And through all these strange stories, Jesus is actually exposing the frailty of human faith. There's all of these different people that have their faith in all the wrong things. And what we usually view as faith, Jesus shows that's not actually faith. Right? Usually when as Christians talk about faith, it's like confidence and no doubt and no fear and certainty and Jesus has got this 100%. We always look at those people, we're like, man, I want to be like that person that's just like 100% confident. Guess what? When that boy came, the disciples were 100% confident and they still failed. Faith isn't about like, oh yeah, I've got it. 100%, God's got it. I've got no concerns, no worries, no issues at all. That's not faith. Even though that's like what we strive for, that is not the picture of faith. And when we view that as the picture of faith, what happens is we end up feeling less because we don't feel like we have enough faith. We feel less than. Something's wrong with me. Something's missing. I shouldn't be concerned. I shouldn't be anxious. I shouldn't be doubting. Something's wrong. The answer is more faith. I just need to be more you ever do that? You're like, talk yourself up? That's not faith. That's just you pumping yourself up. That's like just like having a hype man next to you. Be like, yeah, you got it. Whoa, woo. You're like, I got this. This is going to be horrible. What was I thinking? Right? That's usually what we do. But this story tells a much different story about faith. Remember, what does Jesus do? The first thing he shows up, rebukes everybody for their lack of faith. He's like, oh my gosh, you guys. Like nobody in this entire crowd has faith. You all lost the plot. And Jesus is literally the only person in that entire group that has faith. He's the only one that's assured of how things are going to go. I don't know if you've realized yet, but that's how life is. Jesus is the only one that knows. My life has turned out very different several times. Sometimes I tell people, like, I feel like I've lived like 3 different lives because it's changed so dramatically. It's like, oh, that chapter of my life is gone, and now I'm a completely different person. And I knew none of it and had faith for none of it, but guess who knew is Jesus. Right? And all we need to do is trust. So let's look at misapplied faith. Misplaced faith. You ready? And I want you to identify which one you are. Oh, by the way, this is, we got like drinks for going to Thailand. Only cost me $2,500. Sandra's in the back yelling at me. All right, so the disciples, The disciples' misplaced faith is in their past success. There's no present dependence. It's an I got this attitude where we rely on our ability instead of depending on Jesus. Right? It's that mentality that we say, if I only try harder, I just need more effort, or I just need more time to figure this out. If I come at this problem from a different angle, I'll get through this. Right? This is one of my big problems. I am a typical man. I live in my cave. And when I have problems, I sit in my cave alone and I figure it out. And once I have completed my problem, then I come out and I'm like, hey, guess what? I had a problem. And I will be open and honest about the problem I had, but never the problem I have. Right? I'll just grind away until I figure it out. Right? But when we do that, in our self-effort, we miss Jesus. It's just me in the cave. Jesus doesn't join me. Jesus is actually out of the cave, and he's like, hey, how's that going for you? I'm like, I just need a couple more years. I'll figure this out. He's like, hey, when you're ready, come out and I'll help you. I'm like, give me a couple more years, and then I'll come asking. But literally, I'll struggle with stuff for years before I'm like, all right, Jesus, you can help now. Like, I'll pray. I'll be like, Jesus, please help. But on my terms, in my cave. And in our self-effort, we miss the divine healing power of Jesus in our lives. It will come. We just prolong it. The next one is the Pharisees. They rationalize their lack of faith. The explanations is just a mask for unbelief. And instead of seeking God, we seek an explanation. You know this is you. If instead of being like, Jesus, what's going on? We just say, you know what it was? It was because I'm a bad person. Or it was because of this or that person. And we think God must be mad or I must not have enough faith. And really what we're trying to do is we're trying to protect ourselves from our own disappointment in God. God has let us down. We don't want to be disappointed in God, so then we become disappointed in ourselves. Because God's perfect and I'm not. And our rationalizations, our explanations cover the fact that we've lost faith in God moving. That's when we say, this is the new normal. You ever do that? I did that with my back. This is the new normal. I just need to learn to live with this. This is what life is going to be forever now. And then you've got the crowd. Their perception shapes their faith. It's all about emotional reactions. Right? We do this and we become spiritual spectators, only engaging when things go good, and we run away when things don't. And our faith becomes shallow and fragile and unreliable. And we're like, if God doesn't immediately move, that means I should be doing something else. And we lose one of the most important parts of our faith, which is perseverance and character. And the reality, if this is us, if you're like one of the crowds, ultimately we want Jesus' power without actually having to be conformed to his image. When things get difficult, you're like, let me go the easy way. I'm like water. Because water flows in the... Okay, thanks. And then you've got the father. He's despairing in everything. He's worn down. He's unsure if Jesus can help. He sees the situation as greater than anything else. And this is when you stop expecting anything, God. Hopelessness replaces faith. And even when Jesus stands right in front of us, we're like, it's not going to work out. And we think the situation is the thing that has all the power in our lives. That this situation is even greater than God. My problems are big and my God is small. So what is the clear picture of faith? Super simple. I believe. Help my unbelief. It's not this like, I got it all figured out. It's I am totally messed up without you, Jesus. He didn't have everything figured out. He was barely holding on, but he turned to Jesus. And faith isn't about how strong you feel. It's just about who you are turning to. It's just honest dependence. It's like one of my favorite analogies. Let's say that you have to go to Australia. You can fly to Australia if you'd like, but you're terrified of flying. Like, pass out, white-knuckled, fear, you need to be heavily sedated to get on an airplane. Or your other option is swimming to Australia. Right? If you try to swim to Australia because you're scared of flying, you going to make it? Sharks are going to eat you alive. Well, you'll probably die long before that. But this is the example of what real faith looks like. You're terrified of flying. You're petrified. Right? You have panic attacks. But all you need to do is have enough faith to get on the plane, and you'll make it to where you need to go. Right? While you're on the plane, en route, you can be absolutely freaking out. Don't freak out too much because they'll turn the plane around. But you can be panicking. Just kidding. That does not fit my analogy. Pretend I didn't say that. You can be freaking out. You can be convinced that you're going to go down in flames and die. You can have all kinds of doubt, all kinds of issues. You can even question your choice. I'm not sure this was a good idea. But as long as you took the small step to get on, you're going to reach your destination. And a lot of times, instead of taking that small step, we say, you know what, God? I'm up for a swim. I feel good. I feel my rotator cuff doesn't hurt anymore. I got this. Let me go swimming. But then that's what the disciples, the Pharisees, and the crowd did. But like the Father didn't wait until his doubts and his issues were gone. He didn't wait until he was convinced that Jesus could help. In his desperation, he just said, please help me believe. I don't even really believe. Just help me. Give me the faith to believe. And it was enough. Sometimes all it is a desperate cry. Right? To tell you the end of my story, my backstory. Because some of you are like, you told me at the beginning, you don't seem like I'm in pain. I'm not in pain. And I got to the point where I was just like, I realized I'd given up all hope on God doing anything in my life. And so one night, I laid in bed, and I wrestled with God for about an hour. Do I actually believe? And I came to the conclusion, I just chose to believe. Because the reality is that I was going to be healed. Maybe not in this lifetime, but God promised me that one time I would be free from pain. And if I have to wait until I die, God will take away my pain. I'm going to believe it. And the next day, I woke up, and if you've had chronic pain, you've got good days and bad days. And I had a good day, and I was like, okay, this is good. And then I had another good day, and then I had another good day. And in about a week of good days, I finally walked up to my wife, and I was like, hey, babe, I think God healed me. And her response was, why didn't you tell me sooner? And my response was, because I didn't want to jinx it. Evidently, that's the thing. You can jinx God. I didn't know. And God healed me. Miraculously, even after the doctors were like, I'm not sure. I went to the back doctor. They did all these different things. They sat me down. They're like, so we could do this surgery, or this surgery. We're not really sure which one will help or if any of them will help. Let us know what you want to choose. And then God healed me. Right? And I can't pretend I know what you're going through. I can't pretend that God's going to do the same thing, because sometimes, like the Father, He just lets you wait. Sometimes it is you wait until you come home before the problem's fixed. But I can guarantee you one thing, He will fix all of your problems. Might not be on the timeline that you prefer, but Jesus, we don't have to believe that Jesus can heal. What we need to believe is that Jesus wants to heal. It's His desire to heal you. It's His desire to free you from sin. It's His desire to make you whole. And sometimes we feel like that Father, just like, I've tried everything, including God already. And God is opening the door to just say, just a little bit more. Let's just cry out. Just keep asking. Keep believing. And one day, either here or in heaven, it'll all be taken care of. So I want to do something right now. Today, if you're facing something that feels like it's beyond you, you're like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I need help. I'm struggling. This thing, that thing. I want you to stand up because we're going to pray for you. So if there's something going on, go ahead, don't be shy. You can stand up. Thank you. If there's something where you're like, I really need Jesus. I really need God to move. I want you to stand up relationally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. By standing up, you're not admitting that you're a failure. You're just admitting, like, help my unbelief, Jesus. Show me. And then what I want you guys to do, those of you who are sitting, and even those of you who are standing, I want you to get up and we're going to spend a few minutes praying for the people. So the people that you're around, if there's anybody standing where you're around, you're just going to put your hand on them. And you're just going to pray quietly over them or with them. I've got a lady standing by herself. Father, we come before you, and we ask that you would encourage us today. All of our issues, all of our problems, we ask that you would come along and show us not just that you can, but that you want to. And we just pray that you would move on their behalf. And we just ask that if the time is not now and the time is later, Father, that you would allow us to continue to grow our faith and our trust in you. We pray for healing. We pray for freedom from bondage. We pray for renewal. We pray for restoration. We ask you to come and help our unbelief, Jesus. Amen.